Good morning. I am Sulochana Singh from SCRT Gurgaon. Today we will have a talk on secondary growth and structure of flower, which we have already done on EduSat and you might have studied in your classroom also. We will discuss some text and then put some questions related to that text. If you are attentive enough, you will be in a position to answer those questions and you will have a good hold on the topics discussed today. So, let us start. First, we will talk about secondary growth in plants. The roots and stems, they grow in length with the help of apical meristem known as primary growth. Apical meristem are present at the tip of stem, root and their branches. Dicotyledons show increase in length and increase in girth, or we will say increase in diameter, increase in thickness due to the activity of secondary meristem. Now, I will put one question to you, my dear students. So, this is a rubber plant, you are looking into it. Now, students, you have to tell where the apical meristem is present in this plant. Secondary meristem is responsible for increase in thickness, increase in diameter of the plant. So, you have to tell where the secondary meristem is present and how the length of the plant will increase. Now, if we put a mark on the stem of the plant at a height of near about 2 feet, then after some time, say 2 months or 4 months, we have to see how much distance that mark will move. Now, you differentiate between shoot apex and root apex. This is the apex of the root. So, you have to differentiate between the shoot apex and the root apex. Now, what is root cap? It is present in the root, and what is the function of the root cap? You might have studied in roots a quiescent center is present. So, you have to find out what is the exact location of the quiescent center. Next question is, what is secondary growth? So, before we are in a position to answer what is secondary growth, first of all, let us see what are meristems. Meristem is a simple tissue. It is composed of a group of similar cells and immature cells, cells which are not mature. They will divide and will produce new cells. So, depending on their position, depending on the position of the meristem. Primary meristems are of 3 types. Apical meristem, we have just talked about that and we have put question also about apical meristem. Then there is intercalary meristems. Intercalary meristems are derived from apical meristem. Apical meristems which are present at the tip of root, shoot and their branches. So, intercalary meristem is derived from apical meristem. It has been separated from the apical meristem by formation of permanent tissues in between. यानी कि apical meristems के बाद जो permanent tissue बन गया है तो वहाँ से intercalary meristem होता है. So, intercalary meristem is present in between the permanent tissue and it helps in elongation of organs which are present at the base of the leaves. Now, third meristem is the lateral meristem. It is present on the sides and it take part in increasing the girth of the plant, in increasing diameter, thickness of the plant. In plants, only one type of primary lateral meristem is present and that is intrafascicular cambium. कहाँ present है ये? It is present in the vascular bundles of dicots and gymnosperms in between xylem and phloem. So, secondary meristems are formed secondarily from the permanent tissues. पहले permanent tissues बनते हैं, फिर permanent tissues by the process of de-differentiation they regain the power of division. Permanent tissues have lost the power of division. Now, they will again regain that capacity, they will regain that power of division, and that process is known as de-differentiation. So, by the process of de-differentiation, secondary meristems are produced, and these secondary meristems will produce secondary tissues which will produce secondary growth, as a result of which thickness and width or diameter of the plant will be increased. Now, we will put questions. You must be in a position to answer them now. Now, what is meristematic tissue? What is the position of primary meristem? Next question, how permanent cells convert into secondary meristem? Now, the tissues which were involved in secondary growth are two lateral meristems, which are present in mature region of roots and shoot. This is a plant, it is showing this is the shoot portion, this is the root portion, and in the mature region of shoot and mature region of root, secondary meristem or lateral meristem is present. This is a small plant, and if we take this bigger plant, we will be in a position to understand more. So, secondary meristem will produce woody axis. Secondary meristem is present in those plants which produce woody axis. It is of two types, vascular cambium and cork cambium. So, vascular cambium is the meristematic tissue which is responsible for cutting of vascular tissue, xylem and phloem, and second lateral meristem is the cork cambium. It is present in cortex. Now, you have to tell which tissues are involved in secondary growth. Next, what is the difference between primary and secondary meristems? You have studied these topics in your previous classes, so you must be in a very good position to answer them. Now, think over the differences between xylem and phloem. Now, depending upon the time of origin in relation to the growth of plant organ, यानी कि प्लांट की ग्रोथ के रिलेशन में किस टाइम पर xylem का डेवलपमेंट हुआ है, डिपेंडिंग अपॉन दैट xylem इज ऑफ टू टाइप्स, प्रोटोजाइलम एंड मेटाजाइलम. प्रोटोजाइलम इज द फर्स्ट फॉर्म जाइलम. प्रोटोजाइलम पहले बनता है और मेटाजाइलम बाद में बनता है. प्रोटोजाइलम इज मेड अप ऑफ स्मॉल ट्रैकिड्स एंड वेसल्स and metaxylem is made up of larger tracheids or bigger tracheids and vessels. So, depending upon the position of protoxylem in relation to metaxylem, xylem can be of four types: exarch, mesorch, centrarch and endarch. Now, we have to find out differences between protoxylem and metaxylem. Next question, what may be the difference between exarch and endarch condition? Explain mesorch and centrarch condition. Now, dear students, you have to tell which monocot plants have secondary growth. You have to give examples of those monocot plants. Now, in dicot stems, a cambium is present between primary xylem and primary phloem. So, that is intrafascicular cambium. Cells of the medullary ray which are adjacent to the intrafascicular cambium, they become meristematic and form the interfascicular cambium. So, a continuous ring of cambium is produced. Now, can you differentiate intrafascicular cambium and interfascicular cambium? And how the cambium is formed? The cambial rings become active and begins to cut off new cells both towards inner side and outer sides. The cells cut off towards pith mature in the secondary xylem, and the cells cut off towards the periphery mature into secondary phloem. So, the cambium is generally more active towards inner side than towards the outer side. Now, as a result of cambial activity, the cells cut off towards periphery mature into, fill in the blanks, you have to fill the gap. The cells cut off towards pith mature in, fill in the blanks. So, dear students, try to fill up this, fill in the blanks. Why the cambium is more active towards pith? The primary and secondary phloem, they get crushed due to continuous accumulation of secondary xylem. अब क्योंकि secondary xylem इकट्ठा होता जा रहा है, collect होता जा रहा है, इसलिए primary और secondary phloem crush हो जाता है. So, the primary xylem however remains more or less intact in the center or around the center. At some places, the cambium forms a narrow band of parenchyma which passes through the secondary xylem and the secondary phloem in the radial direction. Now, the cambial activity is also influenced by variations in climatic conditions. In winters, the cambial activity is slow and secondary tissue produced have fewer vessel elements with narrow lumens. And in spring, cambium becomes more active and produces large number of vascular elements with wider lumen. So, secondary xylem produced in winter is called winter wood and that produced in spring is called spring wood. Now, we will cut transverse section of the stem and we have to find out two types of wood which will appear in that transverse section and we will name them which are present in the concentric circles. Now, this is the photograph which is appearing on your screen. This is a shoot of dicot tree. Now, you see the arrow marks. You have to tell what these arrow marks indicate. Now, dear students, if you cut the transverse section of a stem and you find 5 or 6 rings in that transverse section, so can you determine the age of the plant? अभी हमने बात की है annual growth rings की. So, a spring wood circle together with the winter wood circle will constitute annual ring. एक spring wood circle एक winter wood circle के साथ मिलकर क्या बनाता है? Annual ring. So, year after year these annual rings are added into the girth of the stem. In some woody trees, just as Dalbergis, rings of larger vessels in spring wood alternate with the rings of small vessels in the winter wood. Such woods are called ring porous. In other plants such as Aza directa, जिसको नीम भी कहते हैं, vessels of almost uniform diameter are distributed throughout winter wood and spring wood. So, the wood is called diffuse porous. In secondary growth, secondary vascular tissue is added by secondary meristem. So, due to addition of secondary vascular tissue, a great pressure and strain is exerted on the cortical and epidermis layer of stem, जिसकी वजह से cortical और epidermal layer break हो जाती हैं. So, they need to be replaced to provide new protective cell layers. So, the reinforcement and strengthening of cortex is now done due to the activity of meristem called cocambium, or we call it phallogen also. Now, you have to tell what is the function of cocambium. The phallogen produces phallem towards outer side and the phallodem towards inner side. Phallodem को secondary cortex भी कहते हैं और phallem को cork भी कहते हैं. So, phallem, phallodem and phallogen collectively they make periderm. So, periderm act as the secondary protective tissue for the stems. Now, cells of the phallem, they are normally impervious or submerged to air and water. That means phallem के cells में पानी और वायु enter नहीं कर सकता. So, cocambium produces special structures called lenticels in the phallem, here and there. Lenticels क्या हैं? They are composed of loosely arranged parenchyma cells which have plenty of intercellular space. Now, these loose parenchyma cells, they get connected to the atmosphere after rupture of epidermis. Now, what is lenticular transpiration? Now, you see in the diagram on your screen, and you have to label various parts of this diagram. The cork or phallem is protective in function. The cork of oak tree, whose botanical name is Quercus suber, peels off as sheaths every year, and it is used commercially as stopper for bottles. It is light, highly compressible and does not catch fire easily. It is also used for insulation, shock absorbers, linoleum and sports goods. Now, the term bark is used for all the tissues which are external to vascular cambium. So, you have to tell what are those tissues which are included in the bark. Botanically, secondary xylem is called as wood. As the secondary growth continues, a part of secondary xylem in the central region of the old stem become non-functional. This non-functional wood part is filled with the racines or tannins which is produced by neighboring living cell. Some vessels also become plugged by bladder-like ingrowth of parenchyma through the pores in the lateral wall. Now, dear students, you have to tell that non-functional central part of the secondary xylem. The outer light colored peripheral region of the wood is living and serves the function of conduction of water and dissolved substances from roots to the aerial parts of the plants. Now, dear students, we will talk about structure of flower and its arrangement on the stem. Now, you see in my hand, this is a long part of the flower with which it is attached to the stem. Now, dear students, you have to name this part of the flower, what it is called, with which it is attached to the stem. Now, this is the green part which is present at the base of the flower. I am peeling it. Now, this is the green part present at the base of the flower I am peeling it. You see it. Now, can you name it? Now, I have peeled it off. Now, this is again green part present at the base of the flower. This is known as sepal. Now, can you recall what may be the function of the sepals? Now, I will peel off sepals. Now, this is the brightly colored beautiful part of the flower. Now, can you find out why this part of the flower is so brightly colored? Sometimes this part also produces fragrance. You have to recall. You know it. You just have to scratch your brain. So, these two parts, this green part which I have peeled off, that one was sepal, one question was left for you, and this is the colored part, question left for you what it is. So, these two parts, they are known as non-essential part of the flower. They are not essential for reproduction. Now, we will peel off this beautiful part of the flower. Now, you see this. This is the third part of the flower which is known as stamens, and collectively we call it androecium. Now, you have to tell this androecium or stamen represent which reproductive part of the flower, either male or female, and this is the essential part of the flower, the stamen or androecium. This is a tube formed by accumulation of all the stamens together. Now, on this tube you see a filament like structures are present around this tube. One is at the tip and one is the long part with which that upper bilobed part is attached. What is present inside that upper tip of the stamen? Now, we will peel off. You see it, how we are doing it. Now, dear students, you see this is the fourth part of the flower, which is also essential part of the flower. That means it is essential for reproduction. So, this fourth part, you have to name this fourth part which is essential for reproduction. It is made up of three parts. One part is present at the base. This is the swollen part of that fourth appendages. This is the long structure with which upper part, you have to name upper part also, and lower part are attached. What this portion is known as? What is this upper portion called? So, dear students, if you are interested to see ovary, this is a fruit, and fruit is a developed ovary. Now, if we cut transverse section of the ovary, we will see ovules inside it. Now, you have to see how the ovules are arranged on a tissue like structure known as placenta. The manner in which ovules are arranged on the placenta is known as placentation. So, you have to tell which type of placentation is present in this fruit. Now, you see this is the capsicum. Now, we cut transverse section of the capsicum and we have to find out placentation. You will tell what is the arrangement of the ovules in the capsicum. Now, my dear students, this is marigold. There are two types of flower present in this inflorescence. You have to answer two questions here. Which type of inflorescence is this, and which two types of flowers are present in this inflorescence. Now, this is diagrammatic representation of some inflorescence, in which this is the elongated axis and these are the stalked flowers produced. Now, you have to name the inflorescence present in this. Now, again this is an inflorescence of some flower, this is the elongated axis and these are stalkless flower are raised on the axis. You have to name the inflorescence. Again, this is a diagrammatic representation of some inflorescence I have prepared for you. All the flowers, they have stalks of equal length and they are originating from one point, and the axis is short. You have to name this inflorescence. So, dear students, today we talked about growth, secondary growth, structure of flower, arrangement of flowers, various types of inflorescence, placentation. You might have learned about them. So, the question we have put to you, the question we have asked to you, you have to try to answer those questions, which will help you in having a hold on your topic. So, this was all about today's lecture. Thank you.